If you haven't seen the previous video in this look back at the Doctor Who Lost stories, I will leave a link in the description below. Please support the channel by remembering to hit the subscribe button, turning on notifications, liking and commenting. You can also find and follow me on Twitter here, and I hope you enjoy the video. The third story in this series is Leviathan, written by Paul and Brian Finch. And for me, this is definitely where the Season 23 Lost stories really start to pick up. I definitely recommend, if you want to give this series a try, starting with this one and maybe skipping the first two, and maybe coming back to them later. Now, on the surface, this story appears to be just your traditional pseudo-historical, where the Doctor and Peri visit a medieval village, where the residents are under siege by the local baron, enforcing a culling on their children, with the addition of some form of monster roaming the forest. However, the Doctor feels uneasy, saying that there's more to this situation than it appears, as everything seems too perfect, too clean, and not how it should be in a setting like this. Not to mention the residents of the village are very unfamiliar with the concept of other people and the prospect of there being other places in their world, and as far as they're concerned, it's just the village and the castle.
Kneel!
To a mere baron, never. Now, if you were a king, you do serve a king, I take it?
Your manner is that of a philosopher, yet your clothing belongs to a jester.
Oh, is that illegal?
Not in itself, but such garb is inappropriate for the forest. You stand out too well. Not that this is a bad thing from my perspective.
You like to keep tabs on people, eh?
How do you come to trespass on my lands?
First, will you answer my question? If these are your lands, who do you hold them in tenancy from? Who's your overlord, your king? You don't even know who the king is, do you?
This can be viewed as a form of satire on how media often depicts the past, and how history is often glamorized to hide the more disgusting elements. While I won't spoil the twist of what actually is going on, it soon turns out that this episode is definitely not a historical in any sense of the word. Next up is The Hollows of Time by Christopher H. Bidmead. One of the other stories that was originally part of the actual Season 23 lineup. From what I understand, this is probably the most popular of this series, as it was the first to be completely sold out in physical releases. The Hollows of Time is notable not only for including the return of a specific alien monster, but it's also notable for the monster that doesn't return that should have, particularly in this adaptation. Now, obviously on the cover you can see that this was intended as a sequel to Frontios, with the Tractators returning, but there was also another antagonist that was set to appear in this story that, due to legal reasons, was not allowed to be referenced. And as a result, since the character uses an alias for most of it, they never reveal who they actually were. I won't spoil who they were supposed to be, but it's pretty obvious, especially when Big Finish does sales about the specific antagonist, because this story always appears in that. The Doctor decides to take Peri to meet a professor friend of his, but is caught up in an investigation when he finds the remains of what appears to be some kind of giant shrimp, which of course are revealed to be the Tractators. While this wasn't my favourite story of this range, I did enjoy it. Frontios was never one of the stories that I enjoyed all that much, plus the Tractators don't really have much of a presence in the story since they aren't able to talk. But there are some interesting things that I really liked about it, especially how it uses time. A notable member of the cast that will only be familiar to people in the UK is Susan Sheridan as the young boy who discovers the remains of the tractator, Simon. She's notable for being the voice of a lot of child characters and a lot of 80s and 90s kids media, including Noddy, so it was initially quite distracting when I heard her voice and like, wait, is that Noddy? Yeah, it quite threw me off when I first listened to it.
Can't you remember any landmarks?
I'm going by that up there.
What, that mansion house?
Yeah, that's where he lives. The king of the streamer people.
It's enormous. Come on, Simon. It'll be getting dark soon.
No, I promised we'd find another scale. And there's nothing here. I know it's here somewhere.
Well, don't go running off like that.
I just want to look behind this mound.
Simon! I don't want you out of my sight. It could be dangerous. Help! Simon! Wait, I'm coming, Simon!
Help!
Simon!
But it was a nice surprise either way. Overall, The Hollows of Time is a pretty decent story.